We'll now extend the notion of abstract classes by introducing interfaces. Now, the abstract class is not the only type of class that we have in Java. There is another type we can use. We have what's called the interface. So an interface is a type of abstract class. It's pretty much an abstract class, but it's a type of it. It contains only abstract methods and or named constants. So remember, with abstract classes, we can have named constants, we can have variables, we can have methods, we can have abstract methods. Here, we're restricted to just abstract methods and named constants. We can't have any defined methods in here. We can't have any instance variables. Named constants are fine, but instance variables are not allowed in here. Now, how do we actually distinguish between an interface and an abstract class in Java? Well, what we do is we use the reserved word interface instead of the reserved word class. So we would say something like public interface and then some name instead of public class some name. Now you might be asking, why didn't you just include the word abstract in that example? Well, all the methods in the interface are automatically abstract. We can't have any non-abstract methods. All the methods have to be abstract. So that means it's not necessary to include the abstract word. We don't have to say public interface abstract or public abstract interface some class. We can just say public interface. Because we have the word interface, Java already knows that's an abstract class. The other thing I should mention about these abstract methods is they have to be implicitly public. We can't have any private methods. We can't have any protected methods. They have to be public. Here is a very simple example of an interface. So we have public interface animal. So technically animal is an abstract class. And inside of here I have two abstract methods, eat and travel. Now you may notice that the abstract word is missing for the methods as well. And this is fine because, like I just said before, the methods have to be abstract. They have to be implicitly abstract. So we don't have to include the abstract word. You can put in there if you want, but it's not necessary because the fact that this is an interface, all of the methods in here have to be abstract. So notice that we still have to have the semicolon at the end, and we don't have any definitions in here. We just have the methods. The next question you should be asking is, how do we actually use an interface? Because we have to provide definitions somewhere. Well, what we're going to do is something a little different than inheriting a class. So if we want to use an interface, we're going to create another class, but we're going to have it implement the interface instead of inherit it. So the way we do that is we just include the word implement and then the name of the interface, and we just put that right at the end of the class heading. So this is very similar to inheriting a class where we'd have public class, some name, and then extends, and then the superclass. Instead, well, let me show you an example. Let's say we use our animal interface from earlier, and I want to implement a mammal class that would have everything from the animal interface. So I can say public class mammal implements animal. So it looks like the same approach as how we would inherit a class, except we use implements instead of extends, and then the name of the interface instead of the name of some class. Now, why would we have some completely different approach for dealing with interfaces? Well, the key difference between an interface and inheriting classes is that we can actually implement more than one interface on the same class. Because remember, in Java, we can only inherit one class. We can't do extends and then multiple classes. We can only inherit one class. But with an interface, we can implement as many interfaces as we want. So just to give an example, we can do something like public class, my class implements, and then maybe animal, and then insect. Or maybe even more interfaces. So here we're assuming insect is an interface. All we do is we just separate all the interfaces with commas. Now here's the key thing to remember about implementing interfaces. So remember, an interface is technically an abstract class. And by definition, if a class has an abstract method, it has to be declared as abstract, which means that we cannot instantiate an object of an abstract class. So since an interface is technically an abstract class, if we want to actually implement an interface, we have to provide definitions for every single method of the interface. We can't just pick and choose which methods of the interface we want to implement. We have to provide definitions for every single method in that interface in order to instantiate the object. Because if we don't do that, then we cannot instantiate an object of that particular class type. So just make sure that whenever you implement an interface, you have to provide definitions for every single method of that interface.